What's up guys, and welcome back to some more Limbus Company, and today we are checking out a video that so many of you guys have been waiting for me to check out, and it is all the books referenced by the main cast, because obviously these characters are based off of many books that I have not read, because let's be honest, I don't read books, okay? Y'all know damn well I don't read books. I do not, alright? The most reading I do is when I gotta read an Arknights and read that damn dialogue out loud, bro. That's what you get from me. So, be sure to subscribe to Last Minute Essays if you enjoy this video. I'll leave a sub for you there, help you out. Leave a like on their video, and the link to this video will be in the description box below. But other than that, let's check this thing out, shall we? Here we go. Content warning, strong language, themes of alienation, bugs. So you see what it says there. I don't want to say that out loud because you know how YouTube be. Okay, general literary sad stuff, really bad pronunciation of several languages. There is no game yet, so it's a slideshow. So this was before the game came out. Spoiler warning. Okay, so full story spoilers for 13 public domain stories that you were probably already spoiled on without knowing about it. Okay, let's do it.
It's the Iliad!
Limbus Company. Face the book, save the references. Alright.
Limbus Company is the third game project of the studio.
I gotta turn this up, holy.
Currently in development. After making a management sim and a deck building game, the studio decided that the next title they develop should be a dungeon crawler and the city builder as a fourth teased project, because why typecast yourself to a single genre when you can do all of them? I love you, Project One. Never stop.
Okay.
Limbus has been teased for some time now with the reveals of the 12 core characters. And as I said in my Library of Ruina video, the game studio is staffed by a bunch of fine arts nerds. So of course, every character is a reference to a work of literature. Initially, the characters were drip-fed on the Twitter account @liberarlimbus, which translates to Frida Limbo, basically. First, it was a portrait with the eyes covered, then
yes,
an
Dante.
emoji, and then a quote from the novel in its author's native language. I would like to apologize in advance to every language I'm about to butcher. With all 12 characters fully and properly revealed, let's dissect the references one by one. In the order the full art was posted on the Twitter account. Though, let me temper your expectations a bit, I'm terrible at actually reading books and some of these are outside of my cultural circles. So,
it's all good.
A lot of this information is brought up from external sources.
Okay. Gregor. Hey. Yeah. The roach.
Ungeheuren, Ungeziefer. Transformed into monstrous vermin. Gregor is a reference to Gregor Samsa, the protagonist of Metamorphosis, a novella written by Franz Kafka in 1915.
Never heard
Gregor
of it.
is a traveling cloth merchant working his butt off as the sole breadwinner of his household, which includes his parents and a younger sister. One day, he wakes up turned into a monstrous vermin. His own body doesn't feel right, he cannot get up from bed properly, no food or drink seems as it was before. At first, his sister volunteers to take care of him, but that relationship quickly grows cold as it becomes more and more obvious that this transformation is not temporary, and communicating with Roach Gregor is difficult, to say the least.
Okay.
You might want to give Metamorphosis a try if you struggle with depression or any other
They're about
illness
2 hours
that might
long.
lead to feelings of alienation, is what I'm saying. Limbus Gregor has a roach arm and is surrounded by cockroaches, so the theming is quite overt. His ego, I assume, is called Ungeziefer, which means vermin in German. Kafka was Bohemian by birth, which is currently the Czech territory, but as that was a territory of Austria-Hungary at the time, he wrote in German. However, Kafka was also Jewish, which is why one word of the quote and Gregor's name are written in Hebrew. And the word Ungeziefer, specifically, was used to describe Jewish people by a certain political party that rose to power some years after Kafka's death. Putting the two languages together here seems very deliberate.
So, they were saying that it was difficult for Gregor to communicate with them and everything, with the roach transformation that was happening. So I guess the difference in the game is that, he just had the roach arm instead? And, yeah, he just had to, keep control over the roach arm because it used to, get out of control. But other than that, you could still communicate with Gregor pretty well. Gregor, cool. It's so funny to me also, and I'll stop at certain points just to talk about specific characters, that initially I didn't know what I was going to think of Gregor. I was looking at him, and I was like, oh, this is disgusting. This dude's arm is nasty as hell. But he's honestly become one of my favorite characters and probably one of the most level-headed characters in the game, especially compared to the rest of the cast, which there are some unhinged characters in this cast, like most definitely. So shout out to Gregor. He's the homie, you know. But I definitely did not hear that book before.
On by chciał so wsem zabycia, wsio zabyć, patą pronuncja i naciat so wsem syznowa. He longed to forget himself altogether, to forget everything, and then to wake up and begin life anew. Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov is an impoverished student in St. Petersburg and the protagonist of the novel Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky,
Yep, never heard of
first
it.
published in 1866.
Damn!
Despite his poor stature, Rodion views himself as a peer to Napoleon, a remorseless overman, one destined for such greatness that he is not bound by conventional morality that dictates the right and wrong of common folk. One day, both to test himself and to elevate himself...
Oh, okay, so I just realized, so in the book, they were a dude, but in the game, they made her a girl. Okay.
Out of poverty, he takes up an axe with the intent to murder an old, widely despised moneylender. As the blade of the hatchet ends not just the life of the usurer, but also that of her completely innocent pregnant sister, Rodion very quickly finds out that he is very much capable of remorse. The character art prominently displays gambling, which is a great visual representation both of delusions of grandeur and promises of wealth. And, just like with murder, it's ill-gotten wealth that nonetheless allures people like Rodion with promises of status that would be otherwise unachievable. Her ego is called Raskol, a reference to the last name of the novel's protagonist. In translation, it means to split, which is exactly what an axe does to anything.
Yes, of course. Okay, so it's interesting seeing, like, I do like the fact that I played all of the main story that's available up to this point and then checked out this video, because then I could think back to certain moments in the game of where obviously we got some backstory on Radian, however you'd like to say her name there, and how she was trying to help out the people, so she took matters into her own hands with that axe and got a little crazy with that thing, you know? Had to help the people out because they were out there starving, people were dying left and right, but that situation got even worse regardless. Things were popping off for sure. But let's continue, because at least on a like, what would I say, on like the base level of looking at the character, I'm just like, oh yeah, she's just a character, she's obsessed with like gambling and money, she really just cares about herself. But no, she definitely cares about more than herself at the same time. I mean, she went as far as to freaking go choppy with that damn axe. So yeah, good old Sinclair. Ayo.
Ich wollte ja nichts als das zu leben versuchen, was von selber aus mir heraus wollte. Warum war das so sehr schwer? I wanted only to live in accord with the promptings which came from my true self. Why was that so difficult? Demian, the story of Emil Sinclair's youth, is a novel by Hermann Hesse, first published in 1919. At first, the book was published as being authored by the titular Emil Sinclair, who also serves as the narrator of the story. Emil's entire existence is that of a struggle between the physical world, described as Scheinwelt, which can mean either world of light or world of illusions, and the realm of Platonic ideals. It's very much a story of a man trying to climb out of Plato's cave, and the duality between light of ideals and the shadows it casts in the physical world are clearly represented in the character's art. His ego is called Vogel, which means bird in German. A bird breaking out of its own eggshell is a theme present in the story. The bird, representing a person, must first break out of its shell, the world, to truly be born and be able to fly towards the sky and closer to God, or truth that encompasses everything. The novel mentions the Gnostic deity Abraxas as being that presides over all, the good and bad, the true and illusory. Bonus points for the fact that this metaphor was stolen wholesale by Utena. Go watch Utena.
Okay. Yeah, so that hits different too, for the fact that we just finished Chapter 3, which, spoilers if you haven't played Chapter 3 of Limbus, it has a lot to do with Sinclair, and good and evil, most definitely. You know, Exhibit A being freaking the one who grips good old Cromer, you know? Freaking Sinclair wanting to be accepted by everybody, not wanting to be a loner, just wanting to be, you know, feel wanted, you know? Feel like he's included. and then Cromer coming into his life. And then from there, everything starts going downhill. That one mistake that he made of trusting Cromer made everything just spin on its head. Like everything was screwed. Spin on its freaking axis. It was done. A done deal. But Sinclair has become one of my favorite characters also. Like, he was pushed to his absolute limit in Chapter 3. Absolute limit, of where we saw a completely different side of him. You know? So, yeah. Shout out to Sinclair, though. Shout out to Sinclair. Let's continue.
Bagzegado Beolin Chonje Lulasho. Have you ever seen a stuffed genius? Yi-sang is the name of a real Korean poet and writer, but the choice of emoji and quote point towards his 1936 short story Wings, in which the narrator is only ever referred to as I. I'll be honest, this one gave me the most issues. The summaries are short and nonsensical, and the author is renowned for his surrealist stream of consciousness style. So, of course, I located an English translation of the story and read it whole. It's like 12 pages, it's way less of a deal than I made it sound. In short, it's a story of a man so disassociated that he neither feels happy nor unhappy, lounging around in his sunless room for days. He doesn't know what his wife does all day, but she feeds him and gives him money, even if he does not enjoy the food and has nothing to spend the money on. But over time, he grows curious. He goes out, he wants to know why his wife keeps having male guests in her room that give her money. He wishes to have someone to give that money to. As he stumbles from heavy rain into his house, he sees what he should not have seen, hint hint, and his wife feeds him sleeping pills under the guise of trying to cure him from the cold. At the end, the man finds himself on the rooftop, wanting to shout that he wants his wings, his ambitions and dreams that he used to have back, but the words are never uttered. Hell, the entire story doesn't have one bit of dialogue, it's all tone of voice and summary. Now, I have to admit I feel I missed a lot from this story, both in translation and due to lack of cultural context. Could it be just a story about a man so depressed he never left his room as his wife turned to sex work to feed both of them? Maybe. But considering that I mentions being 26, the same age as Yi-sang when the story was written, that Korea has been under Japanese occupation all his life, that he suffered from pneumonia that claimed his life a year later, and that Japanese authorities arrested him under suspicion of thought crime, there might be some metaphors here. The Limbus is standing in an all-white washed room, framed in a perspective that doesn't seem to fit his body proportions at all. Around him, splashes of color reflected in mirrors so broken that it's impossible to discern the shapes. Certainly seems to be alluding to a similar sense of alienation from surrounding reality. His ego is called Hayong, and I honestly couldn't find much on it. I've seen claims that it was one of his aliases, but I could not find proof for it. Yi-sang was a pen name to begin with. It might be a reversal of how Yong-ha, one of the most common Korean names, is written, but the characters don't match. If there are any Korean speakers in the audience, please let me know what to make of this.
My guy's like, listen, I tried my best. I tried my best to figure this one out, and it was just confusing as hell. That's exactly what I'm getting from that. Just confusing as all holy hell. Yeah, Yi-sang is just like a freaking mystery on his own. I mean, even in the game so far, we haven't really got much information on him. He's very quiet to himself. I mean, the story that he's based off of is depressing as hell, as we just saw there. So I'm gonna love when we get the chapter of whatever chapter it's gonna be. I don't know when we'll get like his backstory and such, but I'm sure at some point we will. So I want to take a deeper dive into that and see what the hell's really going on. All right. Anyway, Ishmael, you're up next. Let's go.
Call me Ishmael. Ishmael is the first-person narrator of Moby Dick or The Whale, written by Herman Melville in 1851, which tells the story of Captain Ahab's obsession with hunting down the white...
You know, I'm gonna be honest, I did not know that Ishmael was based off of Moby Dick. Wow. This is like the only book that I know out of all these.
His ship's previous voyage. At first, I thought that Ahab would fit the shared theme of the Limbus cast better, that being, in one form or another, ego and either embracing it or disassociating from it. The captain's quest is positively insane and rooted in an obsession to take revenge on an animal that he hunted for profit to begin with. But then I thought about it. Who better to fit a theme of disassociation than a character that is part of the events of the story, but who is such a non-participant that nobody ever bothered to ask him for his real name? The name Ishmael in the Bible is associated with orphans, exiles, and other social outcasts, people on the fringes of society. And yet, it's this one sailor that lives to tell the tale after the ship is sunk by the white whale once more. Her ego is called hers, and in the novel, Ahab is told that before his death, he will see two of these, one made from American wood and one not made by mortal hands. The latter is the white whale itself, as a body of the harpooner Fedallah is entangled on top of it. The wooden one is the ship itself, carrying the corpses of all the crew other than Ishmael, who rises to the surface in a coffin that was on board of the ship. Wait, is that a fucking JoJo reference?
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, that's JoJo. So yeah, I would love to get a deeper dive into Ishmael at some point too in one of the main chapters. I mean, I could, like, because I do remember, like, seeing in one of the trailers that we saw for Limbus of her, like, surviving in the water or something and then grabbing onto that anchor-type weapon thing or whatever. So I'm just like, okay. And Ishmael is pretty damn serious also. She takes, like, the jobs that we do extremely seriously. And there's even times where she's so disappointed in Dante also. Because we just be effing up out there. So, and it's another character that I will be excited to get a deeper dive into, no pun intended, dive into the water. Okay, let me stop. That's not funny. Heathcliff. Temper. Anger management. Angry boy. What the hell are you based off of?
You have broken it. And in breaking it, you have broken mine. Coming in hot from the 1847 novel Wuthering Heights, written by Emily Bront, Heathcliff is the epitome of spite. The story centers on two well-off families, Earnshaws and Lintons, and Heathcliff is an adopted son of the former house. His life is miserable as he's mistreated by almost everyone but Mr. Earnshaw and his daughter Catherine. The two grow close, but in the end she decides to just stay friends and marry Edgar Linton. So Heathcliff, like the healthy individual he is, marries Edgar's sister, horribly mistreats her, then under threat of death forces his...
Wait, so the lady ended up marrying somebody else, so then Heath got mad, so this character got mad and was like, you know what, I'm gonna date that dude's sister then, and I'm gonna treat her like trash. That's some demon time, bro. You gotta be a next level menace to do that. That's crazy.
Son to marry Catherine and Edgar's daughter to become the owner of both estates. Oh yeah, and he digs up Catherine's corpse to look at her as she died at childbirth. At the end, with his revenge fulfilled and both estates in his name, Heathcliff just loses all will to live and wanders the home of Wuthering Heights, staring blankly at walls, until one day he is found dead with heavy rain pouring over his corpse from an open window. His ego is named Revenge, which is pretty self-explanatory, really.
Yeah,
and
it
the
is.
character art drives the point of how much misery and death was caused by him because he couldn't marry a woman that was technically his sister.
What the hell? That was one of the quickest ones and one of the most effed up ones. They got straight to the point with how weird and disgusting and messed up it was. They're like, yeah, pain and revenge. Yep, yeah, there you go. I don't even feel like I really need to add anything to that whatsoever. Let's just continue. Dawn, a fan favorite. Actually, one of my favorite characters in this game. Even though she messes up a lot. She does, but she got that gremlin energy. Let's check out Dawn.
Por alcanzar la estrella inalcanzable. To reach the unreachable star.
Okay.
First released in
I was like, what?
1605, The Ingenious Gentleman Don Quixote of La Mancha is a novel written by Miguel de Cervantes. In it, the eponymous bored noble reads so many books on chivalric ideals that he decides to become a knight-errant, slaying monsters and saving ladies in distress, along with his trusty squire Sancho.
That
Only
makes sense.
issue is, he lives in a day and age that has long abandoned these ideals. Some might even say that they never existed outside of fiction.
It makes so much sense already, because that's how Dawn is. Dawn cares about freaking justice, doing what's right, even if it's extreme, even if it's a bad situation. Dawn sticks to that ideal, and it gets Dawn in a lot of trouble, aka that freaking spanking from Virgilius she got stomped on over there. She got stomped on. That was rough to watch. But yeah, we've clearly seen how far Dawn will go with that mindset. Anyways,
Begin with Don Quixote has been quite mimetic for attacking windmills, saying that they are hill giants, but there's also things like proclaiming his love to a woman he never met, and trying to constantly be a hero by assaulting people minding their own business, like
Oh my
procession of
God.
pilgrims. The man is so lost in the world of honorable knights and fair ladies, a genre which I need to say was spawned and extremely popular in Cervantes times, that he completely misunderstands the much more complex and interesting world around him. Though he did free a bunch of galley slaves, so at least he did one thing right. However, modern interpretations of the story are much more understanding of Don Quixote, painting him as a man too idealistic for the world he lives in. Most famous modern rendition is the Broadway musical Man of La Mancha, from which both the quote and the name of his ego come from. Sueño imposible means impossible dream, which is the name of probably the most famous song of the entire show. The character art prominently features a merry-go-round, spinning around like a windmill and being just a child's play version of riding a horse. Also, I have to mention how one of my mutuals, hi Saf, mentioned how he's the only character in the cast that doesn't look like he would mug you for a pack of cigarettes. It's kinda hilarious, honestly.
Oh my god. I love Don though. Don is great, even though Don makes a lot of mistakes, and like I said, that ideal, that mindset that she has gets her into so much trouble. But at least it wasn't to the extent that it was in the original story of where, just beating up random people. At least Don has a valid reason. It's just there's times where we need to be stealthy and then Don F's up the mission. But anyways, Hung Lu, rich boy. Huh?
May Tsonghung Buzu Haoshi Duomo. All is good if not for one thing. The road to happiness is strewn with setbacks.
Okay.
Dream of the Red Chamber, or Honglu Man, is one of the great Chinese works of literature. He wishes to enjoy the pleasures of red dust, or the mundane world, and is reborn as a boy born with a piece of jade in his mouth. Depicts the rise and decline of wealth and status, the lasting power of love, and, according to many critics, Buddhist enlightenment of realizing how fleeting the material world is. The titular Red Chamber, or Honglu, is present in the protagonist's dream in one chapter, foreshadowing the fate of several characters. Ego is called Taishu Huaijing, which translates to illusory world or universe, which is in line with the dualist themes of real world being all just a set of illusions like in Demian, and the disconnection someone enlightened would feel from the surroundings.
So Hung Lu, rich boy, caring about freaking material things. I mean, even at the end of chapter 3, he didn't even know what a kebab was. He's like, why is this meat on a stick? Like, bro, so damn rich. He too good for kebabs out here. I'm like, okay, buddy. Alright.
Kaina deno eshi ni wa sojite miniku monono utsukushi sa nado to mosu koto wa wakarou hazu ga gozaimasenu. Other painters are such mediocrities, they cannot appreciate the beauty of ugliness. Alluding to Hellscreen, a 1918 short story written by Ryunosuke Akutagawa, which centers around a famous painter Yoshihide, tasked by the local lord to paint a folding screen depicting the 8 Buddhist hells. Yoshihide is not one to shy away from gruesome study for his work, often doing things like just sitting down next to a corpse laying by the road and sketching it in minute detail. He commits more and more questionable acts, like having an owl attack his apprentice, in pursuit of perfectly painting torment and torture, which culminates in him requesting the Lord to burn down a carriage with a woman in it, burning alive, as the final piece of the screen. So of course, Yoshihide witnesses his daughter being consumed by flames, finishes his work and hangs himself. But the Limbus character is not named Yoshihide. She's named Ryoshu, which means Lord, and no matter what depravity the painter's obsession committed in the name of art, the one true despicable person in the story is the Lord who commissioned the whole thing. The entire story is framed as a servant telling the story, and despite heaping praise on their sire, it is painfully obvious that the feudal lord is a piece of shit. He's generous, so he offered a favorite servant of his as human sacrifice for a temple. He's just, and that's why he instantly denied Yoshihide's plea to let his daughter stop working at the mansion, despite previously stating he can have anything for his previous work. He is honorable, and that's why he tried to rape the girl and had her burn alive when that didn't work out. The background art depicts the hell on earth in the form of the city's back streets. Specifically, the 5 fingers allude to the powerful syndicates known as, well, fingers. Her ego is a set of 3 Yojijikugo, Japanese 4-character idioms. They are as follow: Mugamuchu, selfless focus; Abi Kyokai, pandemonium, agonized screams; Shiri Metsuretsu, incoherent, illogical, not making sense. So in full, it can be translated as something like senseless, selfless focus on tortured screams, I think.
Chat, everything about that Ryoshu thing, from the real story and everything revolving around that was just effed. That was horrible. That was really bad. I was just like I knew it was gonna be bad, just based off of how the character is in the game. But just everything revolving around how the action, like all that stuff went with the author and all that. I'm just like, what? What? I don't even know. That's one of those things where you just, I don't even know what to say. I don't know. Mere salt. French jump scare.
Oh, peut-être je ne sais pas. Mother died today, or maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. The protagonist of 1942 novella The Stranger, penned by Albert Camus, Meursault is a man seemingly indifferent to everything. He attends his mother's funeral, but does not weep or show other signs of grief. Gets into a sexual relationship just the day after, speaks his mind without a care for other person's feelings and, at the end of the first part of the story, shoots an Arab man in cold blood with seemingly no reason. His internal narration focuses not on the victim or any turmoil caused by his death, but on how bothered Meursault is by the heat and sunlight. His ego is called sun in French, which is the only explanation Novel Meursault has for the murder. The sun was in his eyes, and that's why he shot the Arab. Sun not as something to be praised and prayed to, a benevolent force of light and warmth, but an irritating eyesore. Meursault is so disconnected from the world around him that he does not share the common, seemingly universal cultural associations. And Limbus Meursault is so disconnected from the world that there seems to not be a speck of color in his entire character art. It's all the same to him.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, part of the reason why he barely speaks unless somebody really, he feels the need to speak or somebody asks him something. Otherwise, dude is silent. He says so little lines in the game. Like, Jesus. Autis, the certified Dante simp. Also one of my favorites.
My name is Otis. Otis is the Greek word for nobody, most famously used as a pseudonym by Odysseus in the Odyssey, a collection of poems written by Homer circa 8th century BCE. In the Odyssey, when meeting the Cyclops, Odysseus claims that his name is Otis, or nobody. When the hero strikes the monster in its one eye, the giant cries, "Nobody is trying to kill me!" And so nothing comes to its rescue, despite it being...
Did I read the Odyssey? I might have.
The ego is the same word but written in Greek alphabet. In general, the character seems peculiar. The ego name is not seen anywhere on the weapon, unlike on the other art. The name repeats itself. The quote is in English rather than Greek. It's as if Otis was a blank slate, devoid of identity, truly a no one. The character art might allude to Trojan War, but that's all I have. On a side note, the Latin equivalent of Otis is Nemo, so I hope that the Kane office plays some role here.
Okay, that was one of the quicker ones. Damn.
As der Mensch,
Fast.
solang strebt. Man errs as long as he strives.
And another thing about Otis, all she really cares about is getting the job done. Also, like, we're talking about the actual character in there. Like, it's just literally, do what we have to do, protect Dante, that's what I'm committed to. There you go.
He's a legendary character, but his most famous rendition is that from the stage play of the same name by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, first published in 1808. The titular scholar is bored of the limits of human knowledge and is approached by a demon called Mephistopheles, offering him magical powers and the ability to do anything he wants for the price of his soul.
The damn bus
the
name?
catch being that if Faust is ever pleased to the point where he wished that the moment would never pass, he would die instantly. Side note, but I always love the quote from Mephistopheles claiming that he is part of that force that always wills the evil and always produces the good, explicitly stating that he is up to no good, but luring Faust in, claiming the opposite of the road to hell being paved with good intentions. That's what we call a false equivalence, kids. The ego is called Walpurgisnacht, which is the night of Saint Walpurgis, the last night of April, which in Germany is often associated with witches meeting on the Brocken Mountain and consorting with the devil. As most Saints' X Day, it is believed to be a pagan holiday retrofitted into Christian canon by the church. In the play, Faust visits the Brocken on Walpurgisnacht, where Mephistopheles tries to get him laid so that he stops thinking about Gretchen, a young woman that he seduced and impregnated when turned into a young man by magic.
Eh? What was that last part?
Folks. 12 characters.
That's all, folks. You know, we just hit you with that real quick, you know. That's all. I'm just like, bro, what the Huh? So yeah, they turned Mistaphophilus. However you would want to say that, Mistaphophilus. Mastifophilis. However the hell, they turned them into a freaking evil ass, that damn bus that we drive. That freaking eats people and crap. And I'm just like, oh. Okay, so if we go through this real quick, Gregor, changed self. Rodian, deluded self. Sinclair, self torn between two halves. Yes, this is on point. Yusang, self suppressed by comfort. Ishmael, hidden self. Heathcliff, self defined by others. Dawn, idealized self. Hung Lu. Reborn self. Then you have Ryushu, self perceived by others. Mirasult, unexpressed self. Autist, lack of self, so just not much personality there. And then Foss, self-sold for power.
There's 12 accounts of egoism or lack of self. Hopefully, 12 interesting spins on the idea in Limbus once it comes out. Shame we didn't get any Polish representation. Next time. It's always the next time. Actually, quick addendum, as a new character was revealed just
the protagonist?
as I was editing the audio, so I'm doing this bit unscripted. Dante. Most famously, the protagonist of Devil May Cry. Second,
yeah, baby!
Dante Alighieri wrote the Divine Comedy, which was finished in 1320. It's a story about his journey throughout hell, then purgatory and heaven to find his dead love, with the companionship of his senpai Virgilius. It's very much a fanfic, so never let anyone tell you that you're a subpar writer because you write fanfics, but it's very important for Italian poetry in general. Interestingly, the ego is named Durante, which was Dante's real name, so there is an implication that rather than ego, this might be, true name, like in demon mythos where someone's true name gives them power over you, which is interesting when it repeats with Otis, but again, this is just speculation based on the fact that we got one art
you were just speculating at the time.
Grain of salt. This video was made thanks to my wonderful Patreon supporters, now visible on the screen. Please consider joining their association if you like what I'm doing, or just save my ego by sharing the video and interacting with it. Next video is already written and recorded, so stay tuned. See you in 2 weeks or so.
Hey, round of applause. Shout out to you for making this video, my guy. Big shout out to you. Subscribe to Last Minute Essays if you haven't already. Yeah, this added so much context to so many characters, and the characters that I knew were gonna have an effed up story, like that Ryoshu one, it was even more effed up. I was just like, bro, what the hell? And it was just interesting, because I didn't even notice that for, like, what was it, Ishmael? That it was for Moby Dick. Like, that just makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, and I'm just like, oh, okay. And then, yeah, Sinclair, like, just torn in half between the two sides and such. So I definitely see how they connect a piece of their story into the actual game and have their own spin on it to make it work, which it has been quite good. And like I said, there's so many characters in this game that we haven't even gotten their backstory in the game for yet, but now at least I have some context for some of them that I didn't know as much about, which is very, very good. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What's like the most intriguing story out of all these to you, the worst one, like the most gruesome one to you, and which character in this game is your favorite? I would love to know, because now that I finished chapter 3, I'm a big freaking Dawn fan. Ryoshu, even though she low-key scares me. Gregor's cool. Sinclair, just to name a few. And I like Autist too. I do. But yeah. Anyways, also, Discord server, description box below. We do have a Limbus Company channel there where the community hangs out and talks about the game. So if you'd like to join, completely free to join. You just go into the server, you click on role select, and then you click Limbus, and you'll get the role to get access to those channels. Road to 8,000 subscribers. When we do hit 8K, we're going to be getting a sound effect that I could play during streams and videos. That will be Dawn saying Yahoo. So if you'd like to help us get closer towards that, it's greatly appreciated. But this was really fun to check out, and I'm happy I finally checked out this video. And I'm really happy, like I said earlier, that I waited to check out this video until after I played where the story's latest up to date, which was chapter 3. But until the next one, appreciate y'all for watching. Love y'all. Stay safe. Hit that notification bell. And as I always do say, don't do crack.
Be sure to subscribe to the Special K Experience if you enjoyed this video. If not, you're going to Femboy IHOP.